in the midst of your sorrow. He's a leader. He's a God. He's a provider. Don't let your mind forget the God that you serve. Because he's not a man that he should lie. If he spoke it, he's gonna make it good. Now you just come on with me. You may be hurting. You may be having a silent storm. It's the midnight hour where you can't find nobody to talk to. And instead of you concentrating on all that is happening to you, I want you to turn the table and begin to love on God. Because he's right there in love on you. And I sing this for you. Sing it for you, woman. I sing it for you, man. I sing it for the person who feels like life is not worth living. I sing it for the person that feels like this is the day that I'm going to give up. But you won't. Because you're going to say to God, like oil upon your feet, like wine for you to drink, like water from my heart, I pour my love on you. If praise was like perfume.
All right, guys, welcome on in. And you are joining yourself on into the Burning Power Show, where you are therefore put on mandate of the requirement of loving yourself. And you are therefore required to love yourself. And this is where we're in the processing of wanting ourselves, needing ourselves, and trusting ourselves once again. And we are on the 30-day devotional journey, in which this will be act as devotional day 12. I was having a little difficulty loading up devotional day 11, which I'm still in the process of that finishing out. But nonetheless, it will be loaded. And we are on the 30-day devotional, which this is day 12. And that devotional journey is coming from my book entitled Excerpts from Exclaims of Sorrow, which is a 30-day devotional journey for the relinquishment of spiritual pain. And we are focusing on the different areas of the spirit as it pertains to spiritual pain and the areas that we need God to consider for us as we are in pursuit of relinquishing the pain and the suffering over to God for our lives. And today's subject matter is concerning spiritual defeat, or the act of being spiritually defeated in the spirit. And I'm just going to touch base on a couple topics. And then I'm going to commune with you regarding being spiritually defeated, which will act as today's devotional, which is the area that we are asking God to consider for us. And so, with that being stated, I'm just first going to touch on two different topics, and then get us some scripture as it pertains to what God has told us in the Word regarding when we have become spiritually defeated, which is when we are literally in battle with Lucifer and his hosts, and we are therefore being defeated by the enemy because we've allowed him entrance into ourselves deep enough to where now we can be hindered, and therefore be defeated by the enemy. And so I wanted to touch base on evil and what is evil, and how it pertains to solely our spirit and when we've been defeated in the spirit realm, and just to get an understanding that we are being continuously propositioned in the spirit realm. And what is doing this? It is pure evil. They are the demonic forces. Who is this email? Okay. The demonic forces are the hosts of Satan that are cavorting about the earth realm. And they are the forces that we are dealing with and that we are fighting as we continue to fight the battle between evil and good. And it is therefore what is operating within us as we allow Satan to continuously hinder us, which means that we are spiritually defeated. How can we come against the enemy? Of course, by now during the journey, you would understand that we are doing this work now to seek the Lord for a consciousness from him that would allow us the ability to be cleansed by God. There, number one. And number two, who is this again? The ability for us to gain insight into where God would have us go. Because we're incapable of knowing anything and knowing which route to take as we begin the pursuits of spiritual journeys. And pertaining to this affair, we are talking solely the spirit realm and the spiritual pain that we're trying to get through. And so, well, is this not going to, there we go. And working definition for evil, which are the forces that we're fighting. Evil, in a general sense, is the opposite or absence of good. So what is God? God is good. We already know this. But we're just breaking this down for a layman's term perspective for whoever it is that does not get it. We are understanding that in order for us to even deal in the area of spiritual defeat, we have to understand the forces that we're fighting. And also, it can be an extremely broad concept, although in everyday usage is often used more narrowly to denote profound wickedness. And so that's number two. We're understanding that evil is of wickedness. And what is wickedness? Wickedness is generally considered a synonym for evil or sinfulness. So what is it breaking down for us? It is the allurement of Satan and his hosts to draw us into sin. And so this is a continual fight that we face every day. And it is through the sin of our lives that we're able to be defeated by the enemy. And it's through the principalities of hierarchies of the earth realm that we have not either foreseen, seen, or are not aware that we are experiencing. And we need to be clear about that we could be experiencing evil, which is the distortion of our minds, which is why we are trying to obtain the consciousness of God for the renewing of our mind. Further definition on wickedness among theologians and philosophers, it has the more specific meaning of evil committed consciously and of free will. It can also be considered the quality or state of being wicked. And so it just broke down for us here that Satan is about the business of getting us to willfully, of free will, use our consciousness to hinder our own lives. And this is powerful in this hour because I really need you to hear that part. And so we understand that evil is housing wickedness, and wickedness is from the enemy. And he is trying to utilize our earth realm intellect and our earth realm consciousness to continue to harbor the sins under the wickedness and allow us to freely, he's wanting us to freely use this consciousness so that, of course, number one, he's not going to be responsible at the end of it, but us to freely submit to the hindering or the spiritual defeat of our own lives. And we're going to do this during the propositioning phase. And so, first stage of evil is sin and directlessness. So we need to understand that too. First stage of evil is sin, and it is the occasional directionlessness. And what is directionlessness? Absence of direction. And so this is the next phase right there. He is trying to get us, once we become spiritually defeated, which means that we are now consumed in the sin, now we have become directionless when we are trying to get back to the one directionalness of God, which means we are keeping our eyes on God and we are keeping our spirit in pursuit of God for the consciousness that he's trying to give us. But Satan, through the wickedness, is hindering us and defeating us in the spirit realm by continuing to allure us. And this is an everyday fight. I really need you to get this. Whether that be a depression or whether that be of a sexual nature or whatever the case, or whatever it is that we're longing for, and whatever it is that our earth realm heart is yearning and desiring after. This is how Satan is able to do this to us, because he's going to continue to keep playing the same scenery in our minds by way of the consciousness of the earth realm. And so it is how the wickedness is even able to enter into us. It's through the mind first. And our mind is operating all of this. So we have to understand that now that we have entered into the sin and allowed our temple, caused by our mental capacity, to become wicked, and we are willfully, freely in pursuit of the sin that Satan is wanting us to be housed in. And so, I'm at 13 minutes. I want to leave off that topic and get to defeat. What is a working definition for defeat? And so what it means to be defeat, or defeat, the meaning of defeat is to win a victory over someone in a battle or other contest, and or to overcome or beat. So let's say that again. A defeat means to win a victory over someone in a battle. So we're not even talking people, places, or things. We're not even talking any type of external situations. We're talking solely over someone. And that is you. And that is all of us. Someone in a battle or other contest, or to overcome or beat. So this is the mission of Satan, because he's still trying to believe that he's going to be capable of overthrowing the throne of God. And how is he believing he's going to complete that mission? By destroying you. And this is the everyday battle that we're facing. And this is the very premise to the pain. This is one of the main benefactors of why we are continuously in spiritual pain. What is the next one? An instance of defeating or being defeated. So Satan is, whenever we feel spiritually defeated, which means we feel full of wickedness and we feel full of sin. And now we feel like we can't even present ourselves before the Lord. And this is where Satan is trying to get us, because he's still trying to trick our mind to get us back. And this is why people, and like I said, I'm not a firm believer in the whole backsliding thing, because we're in a war. We're fighting a battle that's been waged in the wars of heaven. We are the medium between heaven and earth. So we need to really understand the severity of this. We're not talking some mom and pop, or well, they backslid or whatever, because everybody's backsliding. I don't care if you're in the church or wherever you're at. Everybody is backsliding. So we need to understand why. And that's why I'm on here today to talk about this subject, because we need to understand that this is a battle that we are continuously fighting, because Satan is still trying to utilize God's people as an entrance in the mindset of his own loss. Because you're never going to defeat or overthrow the throne of God. And so that's why we need to understand what battle we're facing and why we're continuously tempted by the allurements of the cavorting of Satan. And it's why we keep, even if we feel like I'm doing better today, and I've been doing really great this week. I've been working out this week, and now I don't feel like working out next week. I was having sex, 3 times a week with 3 different people. And then now last month I've been celibate, or whatever the case, whatever you're working on in order to better yourself or to get a new consciousness, and which means you've heard something and you listen to God, but this week, and then next week you don't feel like you can make it through. And you're back in the depression. And so this is why we need to understand, because the battle is way up high in the principality that we cannot see. And we're not talking who I'm just backsliding today or who I just don't. We need to understand why we don't feel like it, and why all of a sudden we're allured by the sin again. Because it's a spiritual battle. And that's why we have to have the atonement. And so it's the allurement of the evil by the entrance of the gates of our consciousness. So Satan is trying to get us back there. That's why, just like with me, I woke up today 7 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, I'm hearing voices about, well, you didn't do this today, or you didn't do that last week, or you didn't do, and that's because it's a trick of the enemy. And then at the entry gate, when you hear Satan knocking on the door of your mind, you have to open that door and tell Satan you're not welcome here. And this is how we fight the enemy. That's okay, Satan. You can knock on the door of my brain. You can knock on the door of the entry gate of my consciousness. But that's okay. I'm going to open the door and tell you you're not welcome. Because I'm going to tell you to get thee behind me, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ. Because I know I can make it. Because God sent me this far, and he's got me through all these other journeys. So how come I can't make it today? And so this is the powerful right now. We're going to see 18 minutes. Because we need to understand that we are in an everyday struggle, an everyday fight. This is not something, I hear a lot of thought leaders and a lot of philosophers out there talking about, well, you can win this or you can win that. Okay, sure, we can get to a certain level of intellect where we can work through or navigate this and that on the earth realm. But we're not going to ever be able to see anything through until we get a real understanding of the fact that we are fighting a battle that is waged in the heavens. Waged in the heavens. And so we need to understand the principalities that we're fighting and why we are defeated. And having to tell Satan at the entry gate of your mind. And this is powerful right now. Because as soon as you hear Satan speaking in your left eardrum, or you hear him trying to patty cake in your right eardrum or trying to knock on the door of your consciousness, you have to understand that it's not the depression and it's not you. It's Satan trying to get in and allure you back to where you've already passed through. And so this is what we need to understand right now. And we're not talking about who backsliding or who people just keep, all of that. Because people are hurting out here. And nobody has time to be judged and ridiculed in this hour. I mean, really, people. Because I can go sit right in, and I can go in the bathroom right now and take a long look in the mirror before I can judge somebody else. So, and that's every day. So, we don't need to hear all that. Well, somebody went back and they did this. No, we need to understand that it's the wickedness of the heart of Satan that's trying to enter and pass through the gate of your consciousness. And this is powerful in this hour. And we have to understand that every evil work is coming from the heart and the womb of Satan alone. So, next topic, I'm going to get us just a couple Bible verses on being spiritually defeated because I don't want to keep us on here all day. But I wanted to speak a couple of verses just on from the Bible regarding when you feel defeated. Excuse me. And number one, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. And that's Psalms 34:18. And so we have an understanding that God is telling us right there that the Lord is near to us. He is near to the brokenhearted. And he saves the crushed in spirit. And also number two, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And that is Philippians 4:13. Also, God is saying to us, therefore I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, but plans to give you hope and a future. And that's Jeremiah 29:11. Also, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Be not afraid and do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that is from Joshua 1:9. And so what is God telling us? He's right there with you in the whorehouse. That's right. He's right there with you when you're snorting that cocaine up your nose. He's right there with you when you're down in the dumps and you've given everything in your heart that you had left to give. That's right. He's right there with you in that bed when you're trying to take that bottle of pills and swallow it. He's right there with you when you don't feel like you can make it through this next hour. He's right there with you when you don't have any friends left and anybody to call at 3 a.m. in the morning, when you don't feel like that you can make it through the night. Because God just told us right here that he's with us. And for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.